Yeah, thank you. Thank you all for joining, taking time out of your busy day. So we really do appreciate it, and we definitely have a lot of exciting things to share today. So yeah,
Wonderful.
all right. So looks like people are filing in the topics that I will be covering. So for those of you who are new, I definitely want to give a brief overview of POET and what we do. And then talk a little bit about our new recessed lights, the RGB, the color with full tunable capabilities, and our white tunable lights that we just started shipping. So touch on that a little bit. I won't do a deep dive on it because it is pretty intensive. But we will have more webinars now going forward where we'll talk about various topics about our lighting. I also do want to cover our MV1 that we just started shipping 3 months ago, which has been very popular. And at some point, we will do a deep dive on the MV1 and the many uses and how to use it. But I just want to just cover those um, lightly today to kind of give you a feel what's about. And obviously, if you have more questions, I do plan on leaving the last 30 minutes of this webinar for any kind of questions you guys might have. But I want to spend the majority of the time on this webinar doing a deep dive into our IP1, our dry contact and voltage trigger, which we just started shipping, and talk about the many different uses for this product and how it makes our light even more unique. And one last thing, just type in your questions into the chat. We'll keep track of it, and in the end, I promise, we'll get to all of them. All right, so kind of our overview of who we are. We do have our legacy coming back to POET. Our POET legacy goes all the way back to PackEdge. We're a very at PackEdge, for those of you who don't know, we're a very hardcore networking company, and we've morphed into lighting. So essentially, the four categories, if you want to think about us in what we do, we do lighting, and the three different segments of lighting that we do is our outdoor security lighting, which is our biggest category and our first category that we dived into over 3 years ago now. Our recessed lighting, which we're just starting to roll out in a big way. Our first generation of recessed lights was more around to support our outdoor security offerings, because there's a lot of covered patios and various aspects where a recessed light was needed. But now we're going full bore indoors. And this is kind of what we're going to introduce to you today. And then our constant voltage driver and the applications and why we developed and released this product to round out our portfolio of lights for any application you guys might have. And then finally, we're full bore into networking again, mainly because they didn't have the networking equipment that could support our lights, our PoE lights. And for those of you who are new, our lights go fully over the network. We're a networking device, if you will, if you want to think about it that way. So we'll dive a little bit into how our lights work over the network for this call. And I know in the past we've done a full deep dive into our networking products and how it all relates. And at some point down the road we will be doing that again. So about our lighting, as I said earlier, we offer a complete indoor and outdoor solution now, especially with the release of our color recessed lighting. So pretty much we touch all aspects of the outdoor. We started out in security lights. We released architectural lighting. With our MV1, we could support landscape lighting now. More importantly, it goes into our full-blown PoE ecosystem and our controllability, where if you have security lights, architectural lights, it doesn't matter. If you have third-party landscape lights, you could all control it through our systems and controls. And we have three main integrations into URC, Control4, and Crestron. So this has been our bridge into the high voltage world. So a lot of folks, use our lights, for any kind of new type of lighting requirements because the capabilities that we offer and the fact that it's fully low voltage product that you guys could install without an electrician. But then, we tie into the high voltage world through Control4, Crestron, and URC. And also, again, some point we'll have a deep dive into our integrations into our three partners there. Our indoor lighting, we are trying to go very deep into it. And then today we'll talk a little bit about our new recessed lighting offering. We'll also touch on our strip lighting through our MV1 and our capabilities that we have there, and also the RGB and WW aspects of strip lights and how we support that through our MV1 product. And then finally, the many different ways that you could control our lights. They're all PoE based, our motion detectors, our wall switches. You just got to run a cat cable to it. They're fully networked devices that once you get it on the network, you could control our lights all through software any which way that you guys want to set it up. And our IP1, which we released, that we're going to do a deep dive today, that gives you a whole another avenue into different type of controllabilities. Finally, our app. We do ship a line of UPSs for power outage situations because given all of our lights are PoE based, you could easily back them up for any power outages. But more importantly, our UPSs are smart, so it tells all of our lights that power is out, and you could set up your lights to do whatever you want to do, whether to turn off to save battery, to turn on to use as emergency lighting, or to dim to again save batteries. So if you look at our lighting from the indoor aspect, I won't go that deep into this slide, but all of our devices just plugs into any Calibre Ethernet switch. Obviously, we highly recommend using ours because there are some software capabilities that we do through the cloud that our other that a standard PoE switch cannot offer. But more importantly, you'll notice most of our switches are 802.3 BT Type 4. So what that means is per port is rated to put out 100 watts per port, which is very important for our lighting because we do require more power. So for an indoor scenario, this might be what the wiring might look like. We'll talk about the IP1 that you see here. It just plugs right into the switch, so it powered a network through PoE, and then from there it has a contact terminal screws that you hook up third-party doorbells, alarm systems, door contacts, whatever you're trying to achieve. Our MV1 again, plug directly into the network, and then from there, you hook up your strip lighting or your landscape lighting or whatever you're trying to achieve. And then finally, our new second generation PoE light drivers, which supports our lighting. We have three different flavors that we'll dive more into, and the different capabilities that they offer. But these drivers, again, just plug directly into the network, as you could see, and then from there it connects to our lighting, and it's all through Cat cabling, so standard off the shelf. And I won't talk about this slide, just to show from an outdoor perspective of our lighting that fits it. But one thing I will mention is our WallPack 6. We started shipping this 3 months ago, and what this product is a full RGB WW wall pack. Okay, so with our IP1 connected to this on the network, you could color change. So if alarm system goes off, rather than shining bright, daylight, you could change it to a flashing red type color to, alert authorities that an event happened. So it offers a whole new world of capabilities that was very, very hard to do in the past using high voltage. All right, so this is going to be a common theme from us as we get more into these webinars to talk more about our lights. We have three main drivers that we offer and going to continue to offer in the foreseeable future. Okay, there are three flavors of it. So what we call our UPD1 driver. Okay, there are two flavors of it, and the table down below shows you the difference. So the UPD1 has one output for our lights, but with that single output, you could run. It has 4 LED channels, I should say, and I'll dive a little bit more into it. And it'll dictate to you how many lights you could run off this one driver. So for a single color light, you could run 4 lights off the UPD1 type drivers. Okay. So the UPD1 PT and the UPD1 is further differentiated because the PT has 4 gigabit pass-through ports. Okay. And these are very important if you want to hook up a motion detector and want to run only one cabling to that location. You could run our PoE motion detector, but given their gigabit and given there's ports that put out 30 watts that could pass through 30 watts, and there are other ports that could pass out 90 watts, you could even run a wireless access point in that location to really save on the type of cabling. And then finally, our UPD4, which we should start shipping anytime now, probably realistically in the next 4 weeks. But what this product and how it's different is it has 4 LED connectors, okay? And then each one of these connectors has an additional 4 LED channels to it. So if you're just running a single fixed white light fixture off this UPD4, you could run up to 16 lights off this one driver, and you could still have the individual light controllability, which for those of you who installed our lights, you could realize why that's important, to have unlimited scenes and to adjust each light individually. Okay. So just to give you a quick feel of how it all comes together, we have this diagram. On the left side, we're showing a UPD1 pass-through that's running 4 single color light fixtures. So you basically have PoE in coming to the driver, and then from there, you have another CAT cable that goes to a 4-way splitter. And that's how we get the individual controllability and to break out the lights. Again, it's all wired through CAT cabling. So it's very flexible. Just as long as you have the CAT cables there, you can run our lights, okay? And they go directly to our light fixtures, which has the RJ45, dongles on it, okay? And then on the right side is the same UPD1 pass-through, but is powering 2 tunable whites, okay, for any kind of like circadian rhythm type applications. But you can see in this scenario, because each one of these light fixtures have a warm white and a daylight, you can only run up to 2 with one single driver. So we'll get a little bit more into this in the next slide, where because you're running multiple light fixtures off a single driver, which has a CPU, and that's essentially the cost of our products and the sophistication of our products are each one of the drivers. But if you break that out into multiple fixtures, you will start to see that the cost of our lighting goes way down. So just to touch really quickly on our new recessed lights that we just released and are shipping. We have 3 flavors of our recessed lights, the RGB WW. And with these lights here, our aim is to go head to head with Ketra and WAC lighting and all their color changing, high voltage stuff We'll go into in another webinar the deep dive of how you set up our lights and why we're way more sophisticated than what they could do in terms of controllability. The first thing I will point out though is that it's all PoE based, so it's all low voltage. You don't need an electrician to wire up these lights. The next set is the tunable lights that you see, and then finally our fixed white lights. Okay, so we offer 3 different flavors of this lighting. And then currently we're shipping it with our UPD1 driver. So up here you see the UPD1, and down here you see the UPD pass-through. Okay, so for a full RGB WW, this is where our MSRP pricing comes in for the 3-inch, 4-inch, and a 4-inch cob type light, which puts out amazing type of lighting, and it could compete with any other lights out there. So you can see kind of where we fall in our MSRP. It's less than half of what WAC lighting comes in. It's about 1/3 of what Ketra comes in, for a lot more controllability and also the simplicity of how it gets installed. Okay, so next, if you go to the full tunable aspect of it, with our UPD and our UPD1 PT, so you can see what our MSRPs are falling into. Now, as I mentioned earlier, with our tunable lights, you could run multiple lights off the single driver. Okay, so if you do that, and when you're in our store, you could click on, I want 2 lights for it. And there's a cost for each additional fixtures, but then you're only purchasing 1 driver. Okay, so on the far right, you can see what the cost per fixture starts to become. Okay, and this is with the UPD1 series, which only has 1 LED out and a 4-channel. But once we release our UPD4, which has 4 LED outs and it could run up to 16 lights, the cost of these, including our fixed white, will start to drop dramatically. I mean, we're talking regular dumb light that you could purchase at Home Depot type of pricing levels, but with a lot more sophistication because it's PoE based and whatnot. So it's really cool. I mean, we have lighting now to fit every one of your budget and types of installation. Okay, and then we have the full price list. So if you email one of our reps, they could send it to you and go over that. So as I've been talking about right now is the whole 2nd generation constant drivers, and we also have been speccing custom lighting as well. And then just a quick note about our MV1. This is designed to support other third-party manufacturers. So the obvious lighting that comes into play is landscape lighting. So through software, you set whether you're running 12-volt, 24-volt landscape lighting, and you just wire it up like you normally do. And it has a 71-watt PoE budget, so it has to take BT PoE. But then once you do that, it's all part of our control ecosystem that you can easily then control any landscape lights. And then finally, what I want to mention before we get into the dry contact closure is how we support color changing lights and light strips. Again, we're all about standard. So one thing we made a conscious effort to support, rather than going the DMX or the Pixie route, is we want to go over network standards. So the chipset out there that's starting to take hold, and you can see around RGB lights, is the WS2811. Okay, and that's what we currently support with our MV1. And what's very unique and advantageous is it has 2 wires for positive and minus, but it only has a single wire where we send all of our controls to a light strip. So rather than having, if you want an RGB light strip, rather than having 4 wires that you got to connect to it, you only need 3. Okay. And it becomes more advantageous with 2 other standards that are starting to really take off. So the SK6812, you're starting to see a lot of light strips now starting to come out, very commercial grade, very industrial type light switches. And what the SK6812 supports RGBW. So not only can it do color, but it has a single dedicated chip for either warm or white daylight light. So it produces a much superior warm or color light. But again, to run the SK6812, you only need 3 wires to the light strip. And then finally, the WS2503, which supports RGB WW. So the WW is warm and daylight. It'll support those light strips, and we're starting to see those now come to market as well. And to do it the old way with DMX, let's say, or what the other light strip manufacturers do in this scenario, you have to run 5 wires to, maybe a 0.4-inch light strip, which is very hard to do and is a high potential point of failure of getting those contacts to run 3. So, but the other huge advantage of going this route with digitally addressable is each one of these LED chips are individually controllable. Okay, so each one of these LEDs could be a different color, a different dimness, which then we all control through software. Okay. All right, so I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but we'll open it up. So I'll go 10 more minutes, a deep dive into our IP1. And I mentioned a lot of things on this slide already on how we wire up and whatnot. I will make this deck available so you can read through this, but for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over this. But the main concept of our lighting is what we call software-defined lighting. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, each light is individually controllable regardless of how it's wired. And everything is done by software in the end of the day. The grouping, the association, how it all plays. Okay. So once you get our lights on, yes, you do need internet because you got to communicate with our cloud to do the settings and everything. And then once the configuration is set, all the settings are passed down locally to every single light, and our wall switches for the controllability, backup cloud. And then from there, you don't need an internet connection to run our lights anymore. 2 key concepts that I just want to introduce to you, and then we will have more deep dives into it, is the concept of what we call permanent triggers and temporary triggers. Okay. So as I mentioned, we have all these different lights that are individually controllable, but you have all these different elements going at it that are turning the lights to turn off, to dim. So like you have a PoE-based motion detector. These are all network devices. We have integration into third-party drivers. We have a UPS, our IP1, which we're going to talk more about today. And then finally, our app, controllability. So with all these things, with these many different triggers going at these single lights, you got this independent system of lights that's trying to be controlled by multiple different triggers. So with this, it might open up an issue where, what takes precedent? How long does the light come on? When is it overwritten? So that's where this whole new framework of lighting comes in. And so this was kind of the genesis of POET lighting, where we thought through all the different network devices that could potentially trigger it. And, we knew that with high voltage, it's very limited. But once you wire a certain way using high voltage, then it's pretty much fixed. So it wasn't really software defined per se. So this is something we patented 2 years ago, around how would this all look like. And the two
Oh,
key
no
concepts
worries. I'm on
that
a Zoom.
that I'm going to leave with you is a permanent master. So what a permanent master is a permanent input to the system, which has no time duration. So this could be a wall switch where you hit the wall switch, or you tell the app to turn on or turn off. So there's no set duration to it. And then the second element, what we call a temporary master. A temporary master does have an expiration. So a simplistic way to look at it is a motion detector, turn on, and then turn on for 10 minutes. It depends on how you set it. So it's temporary. So if you think about those two elements, the basic high level rule that you got to think about with our lights is um, whichever the latest permanent master or temporary master that triggers our lights, that always takes precedent in what the light does. Okay. If two temporary triggers hits the lights in different sequences, the one that's received last always takes precedent. So let's say an IP1 triggers the lights to turn on red, and then somebody sets off the motion that comes after. So then the lights will go to the motion setting. And then from here, as each temporary trigger that hits the lights unravels itself, eventually it would go to what we call the permanent master state. Okay, so let's say the UPS turned on the light for emergency power backup, and it's the middle of the night, but the homeowner wants the lights to stay off because they're just going to go to bed. So they hit the wall switch, the last permanent master setting, and then when the lights come back on, the lights will not come on in the middle of the night, right? So it's the sophistication that's there that's unlike any system today, especially high voltage wise, where it's not smart enough to know, hey, the whole day cycle went, and when the power comes back on, you may not want the lights to come back on as well. So getting to the IP1, it's a network device that plugs directly into the network. It has two independent dry contact closures and two independent voltage triggers. Okay. And then on the output side, it has two independent output triggers. And I'll go into the applications in a minute in a different slide, but these are some of the applications that we've seen are our beta pilot for the last 6 months, how they've been using the IP1. And it's always cool to see new applications that our dealers, been using with it. So our IP1, as I said earlier, it's just a simple, RJ45 cat cable out, but obviously it's not, network based or anything like that. But we use it for simplicity of wiring. We also ship it with an 8-pin terminal screw breakout adapter for those of you who prefer to go this route. And then finally, how the wiring works. So again, two dry contact closures. We also provide a ground and two voltage triggers in for any kind of input that comes, and then two outputs for anything that you guys might want to trigger down the road. And one key aspect I do want to point out is it's very different and you'll see when I show you the setup screens it's not a dumb device, because once you get it all wired, each one is controllable through software, whether it's on or off, whether you want to independently trigger it without an actual dry contact touch, per se. So it's all software driven, again, just like all of our products. As I mentioned earlier, the UPD1 PT only, and not the standard UPD1. And the UPD4 also has sensors. It's not a voltage trigger, but it has two dry contact closures. And again, this is the wiring. So in other words, if this is closer to the devices, third-party devices you're trying to wire, so this is available, to you guys as well. which is a really cool feature. And you don't need a separate, IP1 type of device. So this is the wiring of it. And I showed you this portion earlier. The IP1, it just connected. And then through the breakouts, various devices are wired. So, we've seen, doorbell, which is a very common, for any kind of hearing challenge, type of customer installation. Like the Doorbird is the most commonly used. They have two dry contact closures that you can wire. So when somebody pushes a Doorbird per se, or even a regular doorbell is shorted, and then it tells our system then which lights to turn on, whether to flash and to what color, if you have color changing lights, in there. It also supports any kind of contact closure, so like a door sensor that, opens and closes, any kind of, standard alarm type sensors, you can wire it into the dry contact. Another very sophisticated application that we've seen, which is really cool, is given our lights, the color changing capability, then the controllability, you could really make a really cool home theater, with lighting that the customer, can't get anywhere else. So a very commonly done use of voltage trigger is on the preamp. So when the preamp trips, it sends a 12-volt trigger out to the home theater screen, window shade. But now through the IP1, it could also trigger our stuff as well. So you could get the lights to go to a certain state. You could also use, and what's really cool was they actually used the preamp to go to our IP1 first, and then it went out to there. Because what's really cool about doing it through our device is our outputs are software driven. So you have the ability through our app to trigger, home theater screens or window shades, which is very unique, that hasn't been done before. And then the other aspect is with other common contact closures and voltage triggers, you have to always run the wire, and there's no way to circumvent that as well. So if the trigger happens in one room, you have to run the wires into the other room where you might want the action to happen. But with us, as long as you get it on the LAN, okay, you could piggyback off the LAN from it. So you could have another set of IP1 contact closures, and for different part of the house, or any different structure, you could have it wired into there. But as long as you get it into the LAN, you're essentially piggyback off the network, which is the way things should work, right? Because once you have a network there, you should use it and not be forced to always run wires to every device you want to wire up. Right, so I want to open it up very soon to questions. I have 3 more quick slides that I just want to show you real quick. This will give you a good feel of the IP1 and how it's set up, okay? As soon as you discover the product, it'll show you the 2 voltage triggers, the 2 dry contact closures, and then the 2 output light closures. And from here, each one of these are independent. So you could drop it into any different lighting group, whichever group that you're trying to control. And then once you drop it into that lighting group, it works just like a light for the voltage output, or just like a motion detector for the voltage trigger in and dry contact in, okay? And that's what you're seeing on these screens here. So you're seeing the light tab, and you're seeing the IP1 on how it sits in there. There's some configurability, which I'm not showing. If you click this button, you can set the voltage out. So if you have a system that requires a 12-volt out, you could set that at this point as well. And if you go to the motion tab here, and I'll show you how that breaks out, you'll see the voltage triggers and the dry contact triggers. And once these get triggered too, it'll indicate it on the app here that certain dry contact voltage trigger has been triggered, which is very unique. Again, it's not just a dumb dry contact or voltage trigger, kind of what other folks makes. And then if you open up the voltage trigger and dry contact tabs, this is where you set it. So with the voltage trigger in, there's no voltage setup required. It'll just sense anything from 5 to 24 volt. And then once it senses that, it's detected. And then from here, you could dictate whether you want the lights to stay solid or to blink. You can specify the output brightness of our lights. And after the event is over, how long you want the lights to remain on. Okay. And then for our dry contact setting, it has the additional normal condition setting, whether the lights are shorted to start or open to start. Okay, so again, it's all through software. It's not any kind of lever toggles that you got to do in the old days. And then finally, here is where you set the lights, whether you want it to come on to a particular color, or whether you want it to come on to warm or to daylight. So it's a very sophisticated device, and as you could see, it's very software driven, in terms of how it works and whatnot. So, and then the last slide before I open it up is our integration. As I mentioned earlier, we're tied into Control4, Crestron, and URC, and then so our motion detectors, today and whatnot, are used with Control4, Crestron. And then our IP1 integration has just started with them. So we should have a driver out shortly for our device. So with that said, I do want to open it up for questions. We do have 20 minutes left, and I definitely threw a lot at you. So feel free to open it up. How do you want to handle this, Giselle, in terms of questions?
Yeah, I'll read the questions as they come in. Feel free to type in any questions that you may have, and I'll just go in order. So we have our first question from Sean. It says, how much noise does this cause on the house network? Suggest VLANs?
Oh, it will send out packets, right? And like our UPS, sends out multicast and whatnot, but it's not a lot in terms of how we approach it. End of the day, we're networking guys. We're not trying to stream videos or whatnot. So yeah, I mean, you could have a flat network with us, but one thing I will suggest though is our devices, along with every other devices, will run into problems if you try to stream any kind of audio video through the same network, right? So I'm not sure. I think a lot of you do Sonos, and you probably experienced that firsthand, where Sonos pretty much takes over the whole network and pollutes everything. So VLANs are always recommended, but yeah, with ours, if you don't have any of these massive bandwidth hoggers, then you really don't need VLANs.
Here's another question. Did you just say 8-pin connector can be used with third-party lights?
So I'm assuming that they're probably referring to this connector, right? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Joey, who was this question from, since it probably came to you directly? I don't see it here.
Yeah, they're Victor referring to the IP1 when you were explaining it. The 8-pin connector being used with third-party lights.
Also, third-party lights are used with our MV1, right? So the IP1 is a trigger, and so what I meant by a voltage trigger is it puts out the positive potential volt, but there's not really current flowing through it. So it's just like a 12-volt trigger on a preamp, and that's the way this product works. If that answers the question.
Okay. Another question, outside of Crestron and Simple and URC, are there any other partnerships in the works for other control systems?
Not right now, but we have gotten requests, but not enough requests for we heard some around Elon, we started to hear a lot around URC. So, actually URC is the one that approached us and finally did that integration. But yeah, if you have any other suggestions, yeah, we highly recommend letting us know, because just like our old package legacy, we're very dealer driven, and whatever you guys want, that's what we prioritize.
Okay. Next question, what options are there for light switches?
Well, so, we have our light switch offering, our WS2, which, you could use, but a lot of folks, use, Control4, light switches, or, they could even use a Lutron light switch through the Control4, driver setup. So there's been, many installations where, you hit a Control4, button, and it's actually, setting off our lights. So, yeah.
We have a couple of suggestions for integration with Josh AI from Reed,
Okay.
and also Home Assistant from Gabriel. Yeah. Oh, I thought somebody was saying something. Next question, besides using an app, is there a website that we can use for setup?
No, we pretty much go through an app. Yeah, we don't, open it up to there. So our whole philosophy from day one has always been, because we saw the future with IoT devices and how our devices, we want all of them to go to the cloud, and that's all we want our devices to know how to do. It's a massive security risk. So any other manufacturer that allows local access means that device could potentially be compromised. So that's kind of why we adopted that philosophy, that all our devices go to the cloud. And we want that very simple integration to all happen in the cloud, and we want all that to happen through the app. So our whole philosophy was around getting the dealer in and out of an installation. So we wanted the time spent to wire up, to put the product in, but unlike in the past, like this whole industry has been for the last 30 years, we didn't want the programming to be hard, right? So our app today is very dealer focused, so the dealer pretty much drives the app, who has access to it, whatnot. A lot of the features and functions in our app on how it behaves is driven by you guys. So whatever input we get from you guys, that's what we program through. And it's very easy for us to, provide additional features and updates, because it all happens through the cloud. So it's a very efficient, for us to do that. So, so that's why we're able, as a small company, to, integrate into Control4, Crestron, because it all happens through the cloud today, and we roll it out. So it's a really cool feature when you start using our products and know how it behaves. So yeah, then opening up any HTTP, even if HTTPS opens up some vulnerabilities and extra support avenues that at this point we don't have any plans to do. So
Okay, next question from Garfield. Is there any promotion going on now on Poet Lights?
Joe, you want to take this one? I'm not that into it with the sales side.
No current promotion going on right now, but if you want to email me or Lindsay, so it's joseph@poet.com, or Lindsay, I'll let her type that in the chat at poet.com. We can talk to you about possible demo pricing as well. So we definitely want you guys to test out the new lights, the new products, and get them into projects. So just email either myself or Lindsay, and we can discuss a special promotion.
Right, right. Especially to get into your hands to test. I mean, we're always totally open to that, and that's how a lot of folks get started with our lights. Because once you get it in your hands, back when we started the whole security lighting thing, once you get it, see how it works, then your brain starts to really, go nonstop on how you could install it and benefit your customer to make your installation better. And so we highly, highly, recommend that because once you get in your hands, start playing with it, using it, you'll see exactly what it does. So
Okay. As a company who deals with a lot of new home construction, would POET's goal be to supplement standard high voltage lighting or to replace it? Of course, it's dependent upon the application, but I know the intent is derived from one angle or another.
well, I mean, eventually, if it could get to the point where everyone offers true low voltage lighting, right? That would be ideal because the sophistication you could do is great, especially for this industry segment. I mean, you guys are all low voltage guys, and some of you may not be high voltage guys, and we're trying to offer a different set of products. Because like even to install a competitor's products, right? You eventually got to install this big ass controller that's massive high voltage, somewhere near, the vicinity of where you want whatever lights. And they say they use Cat cabling, but it's just to run essentially a low voltage 12 volt, whatever volt signal across it. But within that same room, eventually you're going to need a big ass controller. Excuse my language. And then you have electrician come in to run all the cabling. So end of the day, it's still a high voltage system, right? But we're trying to get folks away. It's a different concept in what we do. And the dealers that embraced it, they're able to put lighting and to do things that they weren't able to do in the past, right? The first thing that we've been the longest in is security lighting, where you guys could actually come in, and if low voltage contractors put in complete outdoor lighting along with your security cameras, and everywhere you have security cameras, you could put in lights to supplement on how it records, whether you want to go full bright to, scare off intruders, and to put motion detectors throughout a property. So when one trips, everything goes full bright, right? So that's something you couldn't do with high voltage product, but more importantly, it's something that the low voltage integrator is doing all by himself without having to coordinate with electrician. And that's pretty cool, right? In terms of the whole revenue opportunity for you guys. So.
Okay. Next question is, will the API be opened up for us to integrate third-party items?
That's always an ongoing discussion, but at this point, we don't have any plans. We do see a lot of opportunities now that's coming about, especially with our color, changing lights, and more importantly, the MV1, which there's a whole slew of standards out there that folks are used to using DMX, which is very complex. That a lot of folks are jumping on to this whole digital addressable lighting and the standards around that. So yeah, I mean, I totally see us within the next year or so probably having a set of APIs on the most demanding products from you guys.
Next question. Do you have plans to offer more decorative lighting for homes?
Yes. Now that the drivers are set, that we showed you the UPD driver. So we just got through with a really big quote for a whole apartment complexes, because they obviously wanted the recessed lighting and whatnot. So but we could support a lot of different light fixtures with these drivers, and that's our plan going forward. But in this particular scenario, they wanted very particular bathroom sconces in all their units and certain outdoor lighting. So we worked together on what they wanted, and we have custom light fixtures that that we came up with together, and we quoted, and we know we could support with our drivers. So there were minimum quantities involved, and if you contact our rep, they could tell you the whole program around it. But if you guys have particular light fixtures that the homeowner does want, depending on the scenario, we 100%, yeah, definitely come to us with those requests. The other part of this quote that we had was a bunch of drop ceiling flat panels that were, driven by the UPD1. So, we quoted those as well. So, yeah, so that's kind of where we are at the company, where this is set, our software pretty much set, and our mission going forward is to introduce different kinds of light fixtures. And we want to support all manufacturers of light fixtures. So, we're a total open company in those regards. So, yeah, it's a very good question.
Does anybody have any additional questions? Yes, one more came in. Can I use UNFI PoE switches to power the UPD1 or UPD4?
Yes, definitely. You can use any PoE switch. As I mentioned earlier, we're all standards based. Yeah, but long as it supports, highly recommend you need BT power, because like our wall pack supports 60 watts, right? You need 60 watts down the line of very reliable PoE. So we highly recommend our stuff, but if you're stuck with Ubiquiti, then go right ahead, and I'm sure Rob Parr will be very happy.
When will integration with URC be available?
It's available now. Joey, do you have more details around it, or?
Yeah, really good question. So if you go to, and I'll let Giselle or Lindsay type it in into the chat, but if you go to poet.com and under online tools, you'll see, click drivers, they'll take you all the way to the bottom to download the Poet and or excuse me, the Control4 and Crestron Simple driver, and then the URC driver will take you to their website to download it.
Right. Yeah, definitely, reach out to our sales, for the new price list, and we have that information in there. So there's a lot of things I didn't talk about that's in that price list too, is our, security lighting, because, we will ship our UPD drivers with our security lights. If you're running multiple security lights, the cost of that installation has really dropped as well. So going forward, so you can reach more customers now, at those price points.
Great. If you're not a Poet dealer yet, I have included a link to become a Poet dealer. You could just fill out the form online, and it's really quick and easy. Joey will take a look at it right away and send you approval and portal access. I also included the link to the online tools. In there, you will find tons of assets, data sheets, quick starts, pictures of our devices, brochures, data sheets. I think I mentioned that already. But anyway, tons of assets that will be super helpful. You could also find really helpful information on a lot of our devices on our YouTube channel and how-to videos. Great ones for the access points on how to install them and network them and all of that. Also, we put out a lot of content on our social media channels. We have Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And in there, you will find other dealers' installations. You will find how-tos occasionally, but for how-tos, more than anything, go to YouTube. That's where you'll find that. But you'll see the latest and greatest, all the new products that have recently come out or that are coming out soon. So it's a great resource as well. And if you have social media, Please follow us and like our content. We appreciate when anybody takes the time to take a look at what we post. We do have another question here. What does the PoE switch warranties, what are the PoE switch warranties, and would be best practice to have a backup switch in stock in case of a failure?
You want to take that? Our warranty is standard 2 years, and our stuff is pretty reliable. So most of our switches are layer 3 engine based, and we have enterprise chips running in our stuff. So yeah, I mean we rarely see any kind of switch failures. So yeah, I don't recommend it. Yeah, if you're using our stuff, yeah. Ubiquiti maybe, but not our stuff.
Okay, another question from Michael. Any new products on the way?
So our website yet hasn't been updated to include all our new lighting and whatnot. But if you go into our store, you'll see some of our new lighting, especially as we start to ship, and all the pricing and whatnot that's in there. So in the meantime, highly recommend reaching out to us. We will be holding these webinars, probably every 2 weeks going forward, because we do have a lot of updates on what to say on our lighting and all of our new products on how to install it. So stay tuned for that.
Vic, I mentioned in the chat that the UPD4 driver is currently in the works. So that's the one that Vic mentioned earlier in the webinar that has the 4 output ports and 16 channels. So that one can power up to 16 of the fixed white lights on a single switch port, or 8 of the tunable white lights, or 4 of the RGB WW lights. So that one is not quite out yet. The UPD1 and UPD1 PT are currently shipping with the new 2nd gen lights, but the UPD4 is coming in the next couple months.
Right.
Any other questions? One more question about lumens. What's your question, Gabriel?
Gabriel, the lumen output for all of the fixtures can be found in the store. So if you log into the dealer portal and click shop, you can pull up any of the lights and just scroll down beyond the little add to shopping cart area. And there are detailed spec tables for each of the fixtures, including the cutout size, the CRI, lumen output, all sorts of things.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And all that will be on our website. We're a little bit behind on updating the website and the data sheet, so we're very close. And we'll definitely make sure we circle back, with you to, send you all that.
One more question. Are there IES files for the lights?
Brandon, if you email me with which fixture you're interested in, we can get you the IES files.
Any more questions from anybody? Last question on the MD2 light sensor. It has brought me to you guys. I am using URC Total Ecosystem. I'm hoping to create a macro.
That I don't know anything about, but we'll take that one offline. So URC did our driver, for that aspect. So we'll have to get back to you on that one. Yeah.
He added macro to switch on lights AC.
I believe so, but we would definitely have to talk to the right person here just to make sure, before we give you a definite answer. But yeah, well, please note that, Joey, and then we'll follow back up.
Yeah, no problem. Michael and I were working on a project with the ND2, so we're in contacts. But really
Okay.
good question.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's available. I know it's available on the Control 4 side, and that's kind of what we're finding too, is because of our, like our MD1, it's really easy to install. Just got to run a CAT cable to it. It's not high voltage, so there's a lot of incentive to use, our motion detector, right? Even for a big Lutron installation, because you don't need to, high voltage wire it to a sensor and run wires out, and have a whole different concept.
Anybody have any additional questions? Think that's it, Vic.
Okay, awesome. Well, I definitely do appreciate your time, taking some time out of your busy day to, to join us. So thank you very much.